So welcome to a tutorial on how to complete a square of a quadratic equation. So as I've already written, this is the equation for how to complete a square. So as we can see, I have written a quadratic equation out already. And then on this side, I have written the square form, as you can see. Okay, so the way I got from the quadratic equation to the completed square form was by having this equation here, using this equation here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put it into a bracket and square the bracket. But we must first start by halving the x's coefficient first, and we also must remove the squared from the x and put it to the outside, and then we minus the b/2 squared. Okay, so I think to make you understand this better, I will do an example. So if you have x squared plus 6x minus 28. Okay, so to complete the square of this equation, we must first write it out as x plus 3 all squared. This is because if we remember from this equation, we take the squared out, but we also halve the x's coefficient. But also looking back at the equation, we also know we need to minus 6/2 squared. But also don't forget, we also need to minus 28 as it's a part of the equation too. Okay, so now we get still x plus 3 all squared minus 3 squared minus 28. And then we still have x plus 3 all squared minus 9 because 3 squared is 9 and still minus 28. And then we still have x plus 3 all squared minus 9 minus 28 will now give us minus 37. So this is now x squared plus 6x minus 28 in its completed square form is x plus 3 all squared minus 37. So why is completing the square so important? So it is important because it can help us find the maximum or minimum of a quadratic equation. So this is done because by completing the square, we find the coordinates for the equation's maximum or minimum. So this is a negative quadratic equation, and this is a positive quadratic equation. Okay, so how exactly would we find the coordinates for the maximum or minimum coordinates of the quadratic equation. So we can write out our equation in its completed square format again. So x plus 3 all squared minus 37. And then we can look at the two numbers we have in our equation. So, and those numbers are, we have a plus 3 and a minus 37. Okay, so this plus 3 is our x term, and this minus 37 is our y term. But before we write this out, we must remember that with x and its rules, when it's inside the bracket, it must turn to a minus. So for the minimum of this graph, the x coordinate will be minus 3, but the y coordinate will stay as minus 37. And this would be the coordinates of the maximum of this graph. Thank you for watching.